Sheep at Nowton Park. Walking all the way round the park, well, I accept it can be far. And in our recent strolls up there, I've started to say, for there are sheep, 18 I believe, within their own enclosure. I become so excited when I see them all, I lose all my composure. First of all, I wasn't sure. I thought some of them were goats. But I was informed by a knowledgeable man who for breakfast eats porridge oats. Forgive me if I digress. I don't want to send you to sleep, because I've got some things to say about Nowton Park and its sheep. We started off by feeding them weeds, thistles and stinging nettle. One of the rams showed us all who's boss. He's strong and in fine fettle. We have given him a name, Barton to be precise, because his behaviour towards the other sheep is not particularly nice. He will barge them all out of the way in his attempt to reach the food. I'm sure they are all well aware of his unpredictable mood. For Barton, he will headbutt others to show them all who's boss. Though other sheep they may be eating, but Barton don't give a toss. The other sheep, they clearly respect this rampant, ravenous ram, and will do their best to avoid the beast if they possibly can. Nearby their enclosure is an apple tree, and so it gave us an idea. Let us feed the sheep some apples, but first check the park ranger ain't here, because I'm not too sure if we're allowed to feed these hungry sheep. But now we've started, we cannot stop. We are in this too deep. Oak tree leaves they particularly like. You should really hear them munch. But recently we gave them a couple of carrots, which surprisingly they didn't crunch. We also took them some celery, but they didn't crunch that either. So in future, forget the celery and the carrots, because we won't be bringing either. As long as we feed them tree leaves, and the sheep, they seem quite content. They'd be happier still if we'd stay overnight, but we can't pitch up a tent. For they are the rules of the park, which we simply must obey. Don't worry, sheep, we'll be back tomorrow or some other sunny day. Yes, indeed we will, as going to the park brings us enormous pleasure. So many trees and birds to see as we walk around at our leisure. But the main attraction is feeding the sheep, it really must be said, as only a few days ago now we gave them a loaf of bread. Barton really enjoyed his loaf. He gobbled up every crumb. The other sheep stood and watched in amazement at what Barton he had done. All the other sheep are respectful of Barton. They know he's in charge. And if they don't get out of his way, he will surely barge. I wonder if there are other foods that we could give them soon. Maybe a big hunk of cheese or some flowers that are in bloom. How about some chocolate or crisps? Do you think that would be wise? I'm sure Barton would chew till the end of time. We'll feed him some pork pies. Do you think they'd like some fish and chips, combined with mushy peas? I'm sure the sheep at Nowton Park will gulp it down with ease. When the farmer comes along to weigh the sheep, well, he's in for quite a shock. They've gained a stone in the last 3 days, and their knees no longer knock. The farmer now is quite concerned about who is feeding his sheep. He's prepared to camp out overnight in his tractor or his jeep. Whenever we walk in the park or the sheep come into sight, they'll recognize us straight away and bah with all their might. We no longer care if the farmer is watching, as we are simply doing our duty of feeding the sheep in Nowton Park where the apples are so fruity. Squirrels scamper along the grass in a search for the biggest nuts. Will we be feeding the sheep tonight? Of course, no ifs or buts. Up at the pond, the ducks are quacking as they patiently wait for bread. But we have got an urgent task, as the sheep, they must be fed. Here they come, running up to the fence. They recognize us now. Barton barges others to get to the food. Look at him go. Oh, wow. Then we tell them we'll be back tomorrow. Our promise we will keep of coming back to Nowton Park and feeding all the sheep.